for Mustafa Hamid, and who is also a former Deputy Attorney General and Minister of Justice. Good evening. Thank you very much for your time.
Good evening, my brother, and thanks for having me.
Your client is denying every allegation as put out there by the special prosecutor. The office says they've charged him for extortion and money laundering. First of all, your reaction to this?
Thank you very much. Thanks to your cherished listeners, and thanks for having me this evening. First, let's put it in perspective. Yes, it is true. We've received the charge sheet. They've charged my client with extortion, and they've also charged him with using his official office for private gain. These are the charges that have been leveled against him, and we are due to appear in court on Wednesday next week. It is a fact. But as we let a statement out yesterday, we deny each and every of the charges without any doubt at all. And we are seeking to establish that indeed the prosecution, in our opinion, candidly, will not be able to establish these charges against us in the course of the trial.
On what grounds are you denying these allegations?
First of all, if you have followed media reportage, including your esteemed media house, very carefully, you will realize that on about 13th of February, the Office of the Special Prosecutor, led by the SP himself, held a press conference during which they had indicated that they were investigating my client and others over the embezzlement of 1.3 billion Ghana cedis from the UPPF fund. That was the allegation that was raised, that there was an embezzlement, a suspected embezzlement of 1.3 billion Ghana cedis. That was the allegation against my client. Now, when this allegation was churned out, after a few days, we noticed that this was total falsehood. So we wrote a letter to the Office of the Special Prosecutor asking that they make a retraction and apologize because those words were defamatory. They failed to do so, and after a few days, they invited my client with others to the Office of the Special Prosecutor. This time, during interrogation, they moved away from the 1.3 billion they were talking about because there was nothing like that, absolutely nothing like that. And they knew at the time they made that claim that there was nothing like that. It was a figment of their imagination. It was concocted. It was one that they sat down and thought about just to destroy the hard-won reputation and integrity of the venerable Sheikh, Dr. Amit, in that circumstance. So when this particular issue happened and the interrogation proceeded, they then shifted the focus and said that some oil marketing companies had been coerced to pay some money to my client, and so that was extortion. We asked whether there were complainants in the matter. They said there was no complainant, that it was on their own that they were investigating that some oil marketing companies paid money to our client. Again, let me say without equivocation that no oil marketing company ever met our client in private or in official capacity and paid a dime to him. It has never happened. And anybody who has that evidence should tender it in court of law to prove the guilt of our client. So no oil marketing company, no person, managing director or any CEO, chief executive officer of any oil marketing company has ever given any such money to our client, Dr. Hamid, in the circumstances. So when they brought out this allegation and we denied in its entirety, then again they shifted and said that it was one of the officers in the office there who was the conduit through whom monies were given to be given to our client. Again, we denied that, and we told them in categorical terms that that was untrue. Then they proceeded to now charge my client, and specifically if you look at even the amount of money involved, they said it's 280 million Ghana cedis. But in fact, what they say stands in the name of my client by way of something they claim he received was about 24 million Ghana cedis, which is what they are indicating. But in their allegations and facts, they say that he was the kingpin, or the leader of that syndicate that purportedly siphoned the 280 million from the private companies. So I ask, the leader, the kingpin, who organized and orchestrated the theft of 200 or the theft of 280 or extortion of 280 million from companies, benefited less than 10% of the money involved. Absolutely preposterous and ridiculous. So we have stated and we repeat that from day one, the OSP have engaged on a fishing expedition, going around everywhere, visiting every bank, checking every relative of our client, just to ascertain whether there were money that could not be accounted for. And they got none. They have no such evidence whatsoever. And let me put this in perspective, my brother. The charges do not contain anything related to the loss of a single city belonging to the government of Ghana. Even assuming without admitting that on the face of it, the charges are true. It has absolutely nothing to do with money belonging to the government of Ghana, which was the initial allegation. It now talks about money being extorted from private entities. That is why they are going under Section 151 of the Criminal Offences Act.
Perhaps the allegation is that he uses office, which is a government office, to do this extortion and money laundering.
Yes, so that is why I am indicating to you that first of all, he never extorted any money from any person. He never used his office to extort any money whatsoever. And we deny saying, and we are challenging them to prove it in court. Let me indicate this. Go and carefully read Section 151 of the Criminal Offences Act. It's very clear. At 29, it talks about the use of force to get a person to part with money. Probably if you are occupying a public office and you use some force or coercion to get a person to part with money. Those are the ingredients. So they are going to the court to call witnesses to come and say that they were forced by my client to give him money. That's what we are waiting for. That's what they are going to court to establish. So I'm saying that, look, we on our part have stated that we are innocent of the charges, and when we get to court, we will. It is not our duty to prove our innocence. It is their duty to prove our guilt. But when we get to court and the facts are laid bare, we will be able to know whether or not, on the combined effect of the charges and the facts and etc., and the evidence that they will adduce, whether they can actually establish any case against our client to warrant him even to call on him to open his defense in the circumstances. But for now, what we will say simpliciter is that we are innocent of the charges, and the burden will shift completely to the state to prove our guilt.
We see photos of him on social media holding more or less like a card bearing his name, and we see same on the wall of the special prosecutor. You have issues with that as well?
That is completely unconstitutional and unlawful and should not be entertained in a civilized society like ours. It is sinful against the dictates of the and principles of the Constitution, particularly the combined effect of Article 15, Article 17, Article 19 of our Constitution. It is very clear that these acts are degrading and demeaning the integrity of the persons, especially when they are not convicts.
Was that shot taken with his consent?
I'm just putting this across, and let me make that point clear. Whether it was even taken with his consent or no will not matter. But to parade somebody the way they have done means that the person is a convict. But they are not convicts. They are accused persons. So, in the days that are ahead, we intend to test this in our human rights court. Whether, when you charge a person, you can parade the person in the manner that the special prosecutor has done. Because in this particular country we are living in, it's a country of laws. It's not a country of might and men. And we must follow the dictates of the... No, until you are involved in a matter you are treated the way our client and others are being treated, you wouldn't know the effect that it has, the psychological effect it will have on you and those who are around you. So we cannot entertain that as a country, a civilized nation like ours. And the Special Prosecutor's Office knows this. They know it very well, that the purpose for the establishment of that office is being, in my candid opinion, is being defeated to a very large extent by their actions and inactions. Because you are putting a person before court. The person is not yet in court. The charges haven't even been read to him. He hasn't pleaded to the charges. And then you are parading the person as though he's a convict. Those mark shots, in my candid opinion, in all intents and purposes, are sinful against the constitutional dictates of this country and ought not to be entertained. But must be shut down by a court of competent jurisdiction as we march forward, establishing our right and the right of our clients.
But if you look at the artwork, there's a legal disclaimer that says all persons are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law.
So if you strip me naked and leave me on the street and write on me thief, and you tell me that however he's not guilty until he's proven, what have you done? What have you done? You parade me and tell the whole world that this is the man I'm taking him to court for extorting 280 million, and you let me stand and hold my name, and you take my picture and put it there, and the whole world is looking at me, and you go and write that disclaimer. That disclaimer then means what? My people have a local saying, that you don't go outside and strip me naked and bring me inside and then put a cloth around me. You don't do that. So for us, that disclaimer there is much ado about nothing. Whatever effect that the publication is supposed to have, the damaging effect it's supposed to have on our client has already been occasioned. But that disclaimer there means absolutely nothing to us.
But the others also say that Dr. Mustafa Hamid is not the only person who've gone through this. Other persons under investigations by the OSP have also gone through a similar thing. So what's so special that you're raising issues with it?
So the fundamental question we should be asking ourselves is, if 1,000 people go through horrifying experience and keep quiet, does it mean that every other person should keep quiet? There is always a stage at which something must stop if it is illegal. That something has not been challenged does not mean that it is right. So it is the right of those people. They may have counsel or they didn't have counsel, and it was their right to have challenged that. So if they didn't do and somebody decides to exercise that right, probably our case will be used as a test case going forward as Ghanaians. And we intend that we challenge it, and if the courts find in their wisdom that what they did was right and in conformity with the principles and dictates of our constitution, so be it. But until that is done, we think that what has been done by the special prosecutor is unlawful, it is unconstitutional, it's an abuse of the rights of the persons who were paraded, and to that extent, we will have to go to court to seek redress.
Finally, before I let you go, in your release, you mentioned that under the tenure of your client as chief executive of MPA, the organization saw an increment in operational, activities in terms of the finances. What exactly do you mean?
Yes. Again, just look at the letter that we released yesterday. If you look at the UPPF fund, for example, the Unified Petroleum Pricing Fund, our client inherited about 53 million in 2021. And at the time of exiting office, he moved it from 53 million to over 1 billion Ghana cedis. An increase of over 2,000%. Is that a corrupt man? If you look at all the 4 financial indicators or accounts that we actually adumbrated in our letter, it is very clear that the least increment that he made was in excess of 400%. So all the balances that he inherited increased exponentially during his tenure of office. And from all indications, even by the charges the special prosecutor has preferred against our client and the financial circumstances of the company, the MPA itself, we can conclude without a shred of doubt that our client was not corrupt, did not involve himself in any corrupt act, while at MPA never took a dime from government office when he was in office. and that having gone on the fishing expedition and stated that there was 1.3 billion from UPTF fund which was stolen, and which finally metamorphosed to 280 million, not even from UPTF funds stolen again, but now extortion from private entities. God save us. Because as I stated somewhere, if somebody read the allegation of 1.3 billion against the Honorable Mustafa and others, and did not have an opportunity to read the now charges of 280 and come to the conclusion that I have stolen 1.3 billion, when in fact there was nothing like that, you can imagine the reputational damage our client is likely to suffer. So, in terms of integrity, I stated, and let me repeat, that the Honorable Mustafa is one person that many people have come across him and vouch for his level of integrity and commitment to serve the nation. And we can only say that we wish the special prosecutor well. We meet in court, and when we meet in court, and the court decides that our client is guilty, so be it. But I can tell you that we are innocent of the charges that have been leveled against us.
I said my final question, but perhaps this may be my final question. You were Deputy Attorney General and part of the people who worked on the Special Prosecutor Bill and brought the whole Special Prosecutor Office into being. How will you assess his performances taking office? Because a lot of your party members, which is MPP members, have raised issues about the operations of the Office of the Special Prosecutor.
Well, you see, I have said, and let me repeat, that prosecution is, you measure it against the backdrop of your success rate. So, since he took office for about 4 years now, what has been his success rate? How much has he saved this nation of? Against how much has been spent on that office? If the budget that we have had for the special prosecutor for the past 4 years is anything to go by put together, it is more than 1,000% probably of anything that they have retrieved from from people who are suspected to have committed offences. So I will say without a shred of doubt that so far, until otherwise, I will say without a shred of doubt that the office hasn't measured up to expectations, especially in the light of the expectations we had when we promulgated the act. And I can again say that I was privileged to be Deputy Attorney General at the time, sat through the first reading all through to the third reading and the passage of the bill. I was privileged that my boss allowed me to lead that process. But this was not what we contemplated. I must say without a shred of doubt. I can only say that that office, if care is not taken, the purpose for its setup will be defeated. So but going forward, we pray and hope that things that will bring about a positive image of that office will be started, so that in the long run, people will not regret ever participating in the establishment of that office.
So should it remain, or we should scrap it?
Well, if you ask me that question, it's a straight question. But I don't want to tell you a straight position because something is going on in my mind that I may, as a client of mine has discussed with me, I may take some legal steps, but I don't want to discuss that today because that will be a topic for another day.
Council, thank you very much for your time. Joseph Kpemka, lawyer for Dr. Mustafa Hamid, former CEO of the National Petroleum Authority, speaking to us there.